Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
He's done it again, Ricky Hogan.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Waugh, the DSPN. Hopefully you enjoyed yesterday, had the day off, or maybe you've got a 4-day weekend, incorporate a holiday with yesterday's Waitangi Day. One thing I learned about Waitangi Day, I love Waitangi Day, is don't watch the news. Just don't listen to it, don't read it, don't watch it. It's the same as last year's news. Somebody spits at somebody insults a politician, somebody screams down a camera, the media get their sound bites, and that's what we get. And they try and convince us that we're in a country in crisis and conflict. If you don't watch the news, you just have a beautiful day off and you spend it with all the people that you like, and you celebrate the fact that we live in the best country in the world. So happy Waitangi Day for yesterday. On the show today, Rugby League. Warriors superfan Zane Inglis, aka the Warriorholic, joins us to talk up the first preseason game tonight versus the Sharks in Sydney. And Brett McKay from the 8-9 Combo Podcast out of Oz, looking at the last round of Super Rugby, the preseason hitouts, and the news that Joe Schmidt will quit in October. We're going to play What Is More Chance of Happening as we look at all the sport that you might want to watch this weekend, and we start the show the same way every day.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Waugh's first preseason game tonight then. Comp proper underway, as you know, in just 3 weeks, so not long now, Warriors fans. What does it mean tonight? What are the expectations? Does the scoreline matter at all? What do we want out of this game? Okay, in order, I'll answer all of those. Number one, no, it doesn't mean a hell of a lot tonight. Yes, we do want to play with cohesion and purpose. No, the scoreline doesn't matter jack. It's about the only time that that's the case. And yes, there are takeaways. These are mine. The first being no more injuries, please. That's most important. The second, it signals the start of the whole shebang, which raises the excitement level, doesn't it? The anticipation. Third, Coach Webby has selected a strong side, so it'd be good to see some go forward and fluency of combinations and no dropsies or errors, and I think just generally play with some confidence and direction. The Warriors have been in camp for 3 months. That's about a month longer than all the sides who did make the finals last year. So our blokes should be champing at the bit to start playing instead of the constant training. On paper, when you look at the squad, it's nowhere near as strong or experienced as your Melbournes and your Penriths and your Roosters. In fact, probably half the comp if we're honest. But hey, neither was it 2 years ago when we made the top 4. Last year, very disappointing. Tonight, the first step towards redemption and making that 8 again. That for me is what the season is all about, just making 8. Pre-season is like getting a Christmas present a month early. Yes, it's exciting, it's great, but come the big day, no one's going to remember what you got given on November the 25th. This is the only time all year where the performance is more important than the result. The result doesn't really matter. That's the reason it's called pre-season.
Devlin.
Up the Waughs. I'm old school. I also like saying every year it is our year, and I love this time of year because it's pre-season. The results don't matter so much as what we're actually looking at performance-wise, getting to see a whole lot of players, some new names, combinations, all that kind of thing. First match tonight against the Sharks in Sydney, and who better to catch up with than me old mate, superfan Zane Inglis, who's been on board since 1995, and check him out on the Warriorholic, which is at Warriorholic. Not only does he talk league, he's got Holic's Kitchen as well, which is just the best recipes on earth, mate, although I'm not allowed to eat any of them because, of course, I look at them and you just put on kilos. But welcome back, mate.
Geez, mate, I've lost 12 kilograms.
Here we go.
Since I started that channel, so you can use that as evidence.
It's when you turn up with the big box of donuts and cakes, mate, and she's looking at me going, turn the screen off. Turn the screen off. And I'm going, look, he's making pies and hot dogs. I'm loving all of this stuff.
I actually made it, I'll have to forward it to you, mate. I made a special salad, what do you call it, Mediterranean lamb sandwich the other day. A nice healthy lunch for you.
All right. Let's talk tonight against the Sharks. No RTS, his withdrawal. How much of a concern is that?
What concerns me is they're a little bit cagey just saying it's a minor niggle. So tell us what it is. Tell us it's not a soft tissue injury and I'll be okay.
Yeah, because, you know, we lost Roger a bit last year as well. And I know that they've been training since November the 1st. They've been in full contact training and playing kind of in-house games and things like that. But any time that this time of the year you start losing players, it's got to be a worry, doesn't it?
Oh, it's the list. So Rocco Berry is still out indefinitely. Jackson Ford's got a niggle. Both Chanel Harris-Davida and Tanner Boyd. Then you've got RTS like adding to the list. So we don't have the greatest depth this year in the senior players. So if you're starting out with about 6 or 7 guys not available for round one, ooh.
How are you impressed with you when you saw that team named by Webby and the fact that he has chosen such a strong lineup? Sub part of that question being the positions that he's put players in as well, and your reaction to all of that.
Yeah, I had a bit of a yarn with a couple of my close mates that we're talking about today. It's a pretty full-on addiction, this chatting when you're spending half your life talking about the Warriors on social media, like in DMs. And I thought they would go for a strong team first, which is the opposite. They normally play the young guys first, but just to give them a break. One, because a couple of the guys might play for the Māori in the Indigenous game. Then we've got the travel over to Vegas. So I always thought they'd go this way. What I would have been curious to see is who the halves would have been if all 4 were available.
Yes, yeah, good call.
But other than that, Webby said in an interview yesterday that it's pretty much 80% what you can expect in round one, and it's pretty much in line with what I expected.
So in terms of that spine then, is that the spine that a couple of names obviously not there as you said with injuries, but is that essentially the spine? We've got 3 or 4 halves and they're going to be interchangeable throughout the year. We've got to expect that, but essentially that chance at the back and all the way through to 9. Is that what you thought?
So I fully expected Chance to be there at fullback, and I thought Roger would be on the left wing. I tended to believe he'd go for Tanner Boyd and Luke Metcalf because they're both kickers, but he says he's got faith in Luke's kicking game, so I'm really curious to see how that goes. 13's an interesting one for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people like Dylan Walker off the bench, but I thought he nailed it for the second half of the season when Tohu was injured. So I'm curious to see which of Clark and Walker start, and this will probably give us an indication on the weekend. And then at hooker, Wade Egan's going to start every time unless my man Sam Healy steps up.
Well, that's right. I was going to ask you about Sam because you reckon that you got big raps on that boy.
Oh, I tell you, he's got a 15-minute highlight reel. The most highlight reels only focus on the flashy stuff, which is for him is running out of dummy half is right up there with Harry Grant. His ability to link with the player and not die with the ball in the hand, but he's also got a great left foot kick out of dummy half, which we haven't seen at the Warriors since Isaac Luke. And it shows his defense that he's a tall guy. He's about 1.84 m, which is big for a hooker. He's a centimetre taller than Egan. But he gets down well. He's got a great pass, and he's not afraid to put his body in front of some big middle forwards. So great stocks of his old man. In terms of Egan, Sharks legend.
Look, a couple of years ago, and then at the beginning of last year, I mean, he was talked about as a potential Origin player, but then he gets injured, and I'm sure he was playing with injuries all of last season, and he just sort of tailed out a bit. Look, we're going to get that all year, aren't we? And so you've had a really good look at the squad and you know more about the younger guys coming in because you do study also the reserve grade sides and the younger sides. You mentioned before about a lack of depth. How are we going to cover, Zane, when we do lose our players? Because that's what you have to budget for. Sir Alex Ferguson always used to say that he budgeted for Wayne Rooney missing 4 or 5 games because of yellow cards and red cards because he has a real hot head on the field. We've got to budget for some of our best players being injured. How are we going to cover that?
So when I say a lack of depth, like I mentioned in our previous chat, it's around 8. There's a deficit of around 800 first grade games between last year's squad and this year's broader squad. It's that the one area that concerns me is starting prop. So if we lost, worst case scenario, James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett at the same time, I'm not sure how you cover that, particularly up against some of the big packs. But other than that, we've actually got 3 or 4 players in most positions that can step up. I know that the word is that they're actively out there trying to recruit another backup centre at the moment because they don't know when Rocco Berry will be back. But I'm not quite sure why, because you've got Moala Graham Tolfra, I think is a genuine prospect. We'll get to see C.L. Cully tonight, which is really exciting for me. He's been talked up as one of the biggest prospects in the club for a while now, and he plays centre, wing and fullback. So I feel like we've got depth, but it's just that experience that you can't replace 100 games of just walking out there, knowing what happens on game day, knowing how to get yourself out of a hole. That's what concerns me.
In terms of Nuakore, what can we expect from him this year? I want a huge season from him.
So he's 5 kgs down, man. So many of these guys have lost weight. Tanner Stowers-Smith is 5 kgs down. I would say Dimitrik Vaiamanga is 10 kgs down. Bunty Afoa is 10 kgs down.
Is that just is that because they've been training since November the 5th? Right, okay,
but
right.
On Marata, I'm really curious to see how Jacob Laban goes starting on the edge this week, because is that an indication they feel he's ready after a big off-season? And I think if you can play him for 70-odd minutes on the edge, that means we can use Marata as an impact middle forward. We can use him on an edge. And I really feel like...
totally. I don't want him in the grind. I want him as an attacking weapon.
It depends. I feel like he suffered last year from Sean Johnson not being able to take it to the line. Like in 2023, he was literally taking those hits and he was passing so late that the opposition didn't have a chance to close the gap on Marata. But they saw that as one of our core strike weapons and they just loaded up on him all season last year. So hopefully we, with someone like Luke Metcalf or Tamari Martin, they're both really good with ball in hand. They'll take the ball to the line and hopefully give them a little bit more space. So I'm expecting him to have a big year.
Metcalf as well. Well, I mean, we didn't get him last year, did we? Because he was injured. So just your overall thoughts on those halves, and is it going to be interchangeable like I suggested, or do you think he's going to lock into an injury permitting we get to see those guys? Is my long-winded question, is Metcalf going to be one of those guys all year?
I believe as long as Metcalf's fit, he will be out there. Who partners with him, I'm not sure, but Webby did say he's going to pick and stick for the first, probably quarter of the season and give the starting halves a chance to embed their
and find a combo,
their partnership. Because last year we almost never had the same two guys play 3-4 games in a row, and it's the not having those combinations really kills us. So I'm curious to see. Tamari Martin, while he doesn't have the kicking game and he may not be a game organizer, he's probably one of those massive effort players that we will need, the experience. He's the guy who scrambles onto a loose ball. He's the guy who's the last one in the picture trying to make the tackle to stop a try. So from that aspect, he's the man. But can Luke Metcalf step up and play that 7 role where he is driving the team round? Webby says he's going to play a hybrid, so they'll both play both sides of the field. Even if Metcalf's at 7, he won't be first receiver. He'll be second receiver with a bit of space. So I love his confidence. He said from day one, I can play 7, I can kick, I can drop goals, I can kick goals, give me this chance. And I'm excited to see. So it all comes down to, can he stay on the field?
What do you want from these games? What do you want from these preseason games, mate? I mean, I think it's the one time of the year where we genuinely can say the result doesn't actually matter, folks. It doesn't. What's more important to me, there are no injuries. That's the most important thing out. But what do you want from these games?
I mean, the result doesn't matter.
Well, the score doesn't matter. The result does matter because you want to see your team play well and cohesive. I understand that.
Yeah. So Webby said yesterday, like in his interview, it's not the end of the world if you lose. But I feel like off the back of last season, it's a trial game, but winning breeds confidence. So I want to see the boys win tonight. I want to see us beat the Storm if they throw out a weak lineup next week. But for me, it's the mental strength. Has that improved? Are we able to reduce those errors? Are we able to defend our errors? Are we more resilient on defense? Are we fitter? Because the other things that let us down last year, we would have made the finals had we not lost 5 or 6, 7 games by less than a
score,
a try.
Yeah.
So have we fixed those things? That's my biggest area of focus is the mental strength.
Just to clarify a couple of things, on Cloud Cuckoo Land, can be sitting thinking that SJ is going to get an SOS. I think there's more chance you and me get an SOS. Is there anything in that at all? Is there even the remotest possibility that could happen?
I think you would have to see like 4 injuries or 5 injuries before that happens, right? Because Luke Hansen can play halfback and Webby's talked him up as being ready. We'll get to see Jet Cleary. And then you've got 4 halves. Very few other clubs in the competition have those 4 halves of that level. Their top 1 or 2 guys will be better than us, but their backups won't be as good as our backups. So I think that's La La Land.
Can't wait tonight, mate. Here we go, eh? Here we go. It just seems like it's such a long time to wait, but then once the season starts, of course, hell no. It's we're into it. March, the 2nd it is, I think, 2nd that we play the Raiders in Vegas and kicks it all off. But tonight is when preseason starts. You'll be watching, of course. You're excited?
I was meant to bloody work tonight and I was going to miss the first 30 minutes live, but they cancelled on me, so I'm going to be there live. I'm just so... It's hard to describe. Like every day it's like getting closer to Christmas And for a creator like me, I always try to maintain the momentum for fans over the off-season. I noticed that the Warriors made an active effort not to do a lot of social media this year. So, you're making stuff up for so long, and that's tiring. And, a couple of my crazy Warrior mates, we will just talk for hours about different scenarios to finally not be talking in theory.
That's it. Talking stops.
It's reality. Let's
It's reality
go get
tonight.
it. I can't
Yeah.
wait. But on that note, man, don't forget, I want the fans to really think next week is our first home game. It's at FMG Stadium on the 15th, Saturday, 3:30 kickoff. So anyone in Auckland can get there. It's only an hour's drive. We sold out every home game last season. Imagine starting our season off by selling out a home game, making a real cauldron for these bloody Storms to come over. It's only a trial, but make it uncomfortable for them. So cheap tickets out there. I'm actually giving away a bunch and a chance to win a VIP package. So check out any of my social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, for a chance to be there for free. But I encourage fans to get there. Let's kick this season off with a big home game, not just, it's only a trial.
Like, share, follow, leave a comment, the Warriorholic, and also here on the DSPN. Appreciate you, mate.
Awesome.
It's time to play your favourite game, Lachlan. Before we do, though, a little bit of housekeeping. If you are listening to this on Rover, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We're trying as fast as we can to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers. We're almost at 4,000, so thank you very much if you have done that for us. Like, share, follow, subscribe, leave a comment. All of that really does help. And if you're following us on social media as well, Martin Devlin _DSPN. We've had thousands and thousands of hits across Instagram and TikTok this week. If you can like us at the same time, again, it keeps us in business. Your favourite game is called what?
What has more chance of happening?
What has more chance of happening?
Yes, I present two scenarios. Lachlan, you tell me out of the two what has more chance of happening. President Trump's going to Super Bowl. He's going to be the first sitting president to go to Super Bowl, right? What has more chance happening? President?
No president has ever gone to the Super Bowl
Not a
as
sitting president, no.
Why not?
Well, I don't live in the White House. I don't know. I'm just telling you the facts. President Trump, what is more chance happening? That he also turns up to the NRL opener in Las Vegas, or somebody in a month's time is able to remember every single preseason result of Super Rugby in the NRL.
I feel like you've already asked me this, haven't you?
What is more chance of happening?
One of last week's
President
shows.
Trump turns up in Vegas, or that?
You're asking me one person.
One person in the world in a month's time can be stopped in the street.
Yes, I'm sure Jamie Waugh could. Absolutely. It's there's guys who being realistic and honest
Okay,
for a
what
second.
was the result of the
No.
Highlanders Crusaders yesterday?
29-24 to the Highlanders.
What was the result of last week's Blues Crusaders?
Couldn't tell you. It was 7-0 at halftime to one of them. That's all I can remember. But I didn't go out of my way to find these results. But there are people who do. There are people who are watching these games and reporting on them. Jamie Waugh being one of them. So,
Our good mate Jamie.
So I would assume there's someone else out there who has done. I mean, yes. Come on. If we're being honest, yes.
What is more chance happening? President Trump turns up for the Warriors opener against the Raiders in
It's
Vegas.
not happening. It's not happening.
Or the Warriors beat the Sharks tonight. Preseason.
Oh, the Warriors beat the Sharks tonight.
I think the Warriors are going to win tonight.
Well, it's preseason, so you can't predict the result,
It
and
doesn't
you
matter
can't take
anyway.
anything out of it.
It doesn't matter. That's the whole bloody point. The result is actually
But
meaningless.
the Warriors have, like Brisbane, the Broncos. I don't know who their first trial is against, but I saw their team named, and it's like a C or D team. The Warriors have quite a strong preseason side name, right?
What is more chance happening? The Eagles beat the Chiefs Super Bowl Monday. That's a 12:30 start. Or let's go through the Six Nations fixtures. What is more chance happening? The Eagles beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl, or Wales beat Italy early Sunday morning. It's being played in Italy. 3:15 start
This
Sunday
is a
morning.
tricky one. Eagles beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are bookies' favourites, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They probably should be as well. Or Wales beat Italy in Italy. Can I push on this? Can I just say neither?
No, you got to pick one. That's the whole point of what is more chance happening.
Neither or both? Man. Honestly, I'd probably say more chance that Wales beat Italy. I'll say that.
You're that locked in that Mahomes goes 3-peat.
I'm not locked in on either, but it's stupid to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. particularly when they've won the last 2 Super Bowls.
And they've won so many games this year on the very last play.
And all
if he's
three-
got the
by the
ball
way-
in his hands on the last drive and they need him to score to win the game, he wins the game.
But all 3 Super Bowls that the Chiefs have won, with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, they have won coming from behind.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. 49ers way back in 2025 years ago. Eagles 2 years ago. And last year against the Niners again. So at the same time, the Eagles, man for man, have a better roster. But that doesn't always win you Super Bowls.
What is more chance of happening? Wales beat Italy. Or the match after that, England beat France. So Wales is 3:15 New Zealand time on Sunday morning. 5:45 England beat France. What is more chance happening in the Six Nations?
What a game, England-France.
Well, I think they're both going to be great games.
They will. I mean, one's great because it's a higher quality contest. Well, we hope so. At least, wait to see what England's side turns up. I don't think England are winning, so I'll go with the other one.
That Wales beat Italy?
Yeah. Look, Wales are bad.
No, awful.
They're bad
terrible.
right now.
They're terrible.
And there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
There is not. The Man United in rugby boots. This is a 30-year rebuild.
It's not 30 years. It's not that long. You guys, Man United's 30 years.
Yeah.
You guys are, for lack of it, it's
what
a bit
is
more
more
of a term. You
chance
guys
of
are
happening
cancerous.
then? England beat France early Sunday morning, or Scotland beat Ireland 4 a.m. Monday morning. These are great. Look,
Is it at Murrayfield?
Yeah, you don't have to
Scotland beat
watch
Ireland.
it live. You can watch it over breakfast. That's
Scotland
fine.
beat Ireland.
You think there's more chance Scotland beat Ireland
It's
than
annoying
England
that's
beat
on a
France?
Monday, though. Yeah, I think there's more chance Scotland beat Ireland. I think Scotland are a very good side compared to, we've talked about this recently, compared to their recent history over the last 20, 30 years. Ireland are absolutely a side there for the taking. They've been far from perfect in pretty much all of their performances.
They played pretty well against England.
Well, they did. They played well in the second half. Okay, that England
true.
defence was brilliant in the first half. I'm not saying it was good England as opposed to bad Ireland, but once Ireland got going, they were very good. But it wasn't an 80-minute performance. Now, granted, the All Blacks don't put on an 80-minute performance. No one really ever does. We always ask for it. No one ever does. No. Even the All Blacks under Steve Hansen, when they were arguably the greatest rugby side of all time, at least of the professional era. That side never put out 80-minute performances.
The odd one.
The odd one, except for maybe that quarterfinal at the 2015 World Cup against France. That was probably the greatest test performance ever. But I just think that if the right Scotland side turns up, that Murrayfield is a nasty place to go to if you're an opposing team. No, it's a great stadium as well.
All that Celtic history between the two. So
Scotland
these are
have a
cracking
chance.
Six Nations games. This is the best thing about it. I love this competition, and all 3 games are significant this weekend. They've all got consequence, right?
Well, yeah. Well, they always have consequence, to be fair. I mean, once you get to the last couple of weeks, maybe not, but the first 2 or 3 rounds, absolutely.
What is more chance happening? The Eagles beat the Chiefs Super Bowl Monday, 12:30 New Zealand time, or tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Leicester beat Man United at Old Trafford.
Leicester beat Man United. I really wanted to give you a Fly Eagles fly on that one, but
why are you saying?
You guys, it's incredible. You're awful at home. Like, you actually get some all right results away from home. I mean, at Anfield against us, you should have won that game. You were the better side. You beat Man City, that's sort of an away game, same town.
At home in the league. Now we've lost, 6
you guys
games
lose.
or 7
You get to Old Trafford. I mean, you talk about
we should give away free beer because we give away free goals.
You talk about leaky roofs and whatnot. Geez, your defence is just as bad.
Yeah, it is.
Pour water through that.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. What is more chance
It's a
happening?
sieve.
Some other FA Cup matches over the weekend. Leicester beat Man U at Old Trafford, or Plymouth Argyle on Monday.
No, there's no.
There's an upset happening here. They beat Liverpool at home.
No, Liverpool, top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League. I mean, Plymouth Argyle, really? I mean, they're actually better now that Wayne Rooney's not their manager, but if Liverpool lose that, but which they could, I don't know. I mean, do you get
more
to the point?
fixtures that Liverpool play, the better, people.
Maybe this is a discussion point. It's Arne Slot's first season. No one expected them to be this good under him. Maybe a top 4 side, but when you start to place importance on certain competitions by now, don't you?
Well, otherwise you're going to be playing 70 games.
Well, otherwise it's a couple of years ago and going for the quadruple under Klopp, and then we didn't win the 2 most important ones.
What is more chance of happening? Leicester beat Man United at Old Trafford in the FA Cup. That's Saturday, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Or Sunday, Spurs beat Villa. Villa are at home. FA Cup. This is 4th round. Villa have got Marcus Rashford. They've actually got some good signings or loan signings.
I think one of the signings of the window was Marco Asensio going to Villa. Yeah. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
He's an incredible player. Probably past his best. Tottenham, though, have been half decent in the Cups. And, look, they are like you defensively. They're just all over the place. going forward, though, they get goals. I'll say Tottenham. Cup game, Tottenham.
What is more chance of happening? Leicester beat Man United or Doncaster beat Palace on Tuesday in the Cup?
Leicester beat Man United.
No upset from Donny?
Nope.
What is more chance of happening?
Is it an upset if Leicester beat you guys, by the way?
No, it's not an upset. If
Not at
anyone
Old
beats
Trafford
us.
as well.
What is more chance happening? Leicester beat Man U at Old Trafford in the Cup or Exeter beat Forest?
Leicester beat Man United.
What is more chance happening? Leicester beat Man United in the FA Cup or the Eagles beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl?
Ooh, what would I rather? Would I rather you be sad or me be happy? That's the question here.
Well, that's an easy one.
The problem is you're not sad anymore. You're just used to it. You're used to Man United letting you down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a pessimist when it comes to my teams. No, okay. Jeez. Okay, these are tough ones. You've done well today. You're on form. These are tough ones. I'd say there's more. Honestly, there's more chance Leicester beat Man United, but I don't really want to say that. No, I'll say that. Whatever. Leicester will, because they will. You guys are just you're embarrassing right now. So no, Leicester will beat you guys.
Can't argue with it.
DSPN.
Rugby. This is the last weekend of pre-season hitouts before Super Rugby. Begins a week from today. It's Valentine's Day. And again, get whatever you got to do organised before game kickoff, because that's where the real romance is. And I know one who's going to endorse that is Brett McKay from the 8-9 Combo Podcast, works for Rugby Pass as well. Welcome back, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Can we talk about rugby in romantic terms? Yeah.
Look, I talked about them in terms of 7 deadly sins last week, so why not?
Why, hell not, yeah. Okay, so we've had a week of it last week, and we had another game yesterday. We've got a couple of games this weekend. I'm more interested, actually, rather than talk about the New Zealand games right now, is talk about the Australian teams that you've been watching. I know that results don't really matter, but what are you gleaning from what you've been seeing?
There's a really upbeat, positive feeling of expectation this year within Australian rugby. That's the overwhelming feeling, and like every conversation that I've had, everyone's just feeling really good about the current situation, and that's not uncommon at this time of year. Everyone's unbeaten, everyone's on the same competition points. Yeah, that's fairly common, but there's a different feeling, I'd say, this year, and it would be flow on from the way the Wallabies finished the year, and certainly consolidation of 5 teams into 4 has seen all squads strengthen in different ways, some more than others. But yeah, there's just a really good feeling around the traps, and having spoken to 3 of the 4 coaches in the last week, that's certainly the feeling internally as well.
We're all expecting big things from New South Wales because they've obviously, bolstered their squad as well. Is it 3 teams and then the Western Force? Is that really how it stacks up again this year for the Australian sides?
I've just spoken to Simon Cron in the last couple of days, and they're quite happy being on the other side of the country and maybe not being at the forefront of people's minds and expectations and all that. But they've built a really strong squad over there. They sort of finished last year with a bit of momentum, but then they add Harry Johnson-Holmes and Dylan Peach particularly going over there just adds a little bit of firepower out wide that they perhaps didn't have last season. So, plus they had probably their most Wallabies in a single year than they've ever had, and it was guys that you probably weren't expecting. I certainly didn't have Jeremy Williams playing 10 tests on my bingo card this time last year, but he was every bit the international player, by season's end. Hamish Stewart has had a crack at international level. Harry Potter's had a crack at international level. Plus, you've then got the experience of guys like Nick White around, and Ben Donaldson and he have had another year of combination together as well. So, the Force, I think, will be. I think they might surprise a few people this year. They're certainly not getting the same sort of headlines as New South Wales and Queensland have, and the expectation comes with that for those 2 teams, particularly who, really have strength. And Queensland, particularly, I think have got to go in as, one of the top handful of competition favourites this year.
Sorry, when you say that, you mean competition favourites out of the Australian sides?
Well, I think Queensland have a genuine shot.
You're not generalising and saying one of the competition favourites ahead of the New Zealand sides, are you?
No. I genuinely think Queensland have a proper shot at finishing top two, and that's what they should be aiming at. With the squad that they've put together, it was a pretty good team last year. Then you throw in a couple of Wallaby second rowers in Salakai Loto and Josh Cannon. They've added a bit of strike power out wide with Dalgunu and Lockie Anderson and the types. The young playmakers are another year older, so I can't see any reason why they wouldn't be and why they shouldn't be aiming for top two.
I'm just checking. So there's still the Blues, Chiefs.
Yeah,
Crusaders probably won't have as bad a year last year. The Hurricanes and the Highlanders. We spoke with Jamie Joseph last week. He's got big hopes. Look, I mean, obviously this time of year,
everyone's unbeaten at this time of year, mate.
It's like the Warriors playing tonight, and of course, it's our year because the season hasn't started.
Exactly right.
Overall, in terms of Super Rugby, a couple of other innovations. I like the refereeing one. That's really good. We were actually going to in ground be able to actually figure out what the hell's going on in the game.
Yep.
Style-wise, do you expect to see anything really majorly different from what we've seen in the last couple of years? The way teams are playing, or how they might attack, or how they might defend, or the intent? No,
I don't think we'll see too different, because I think most Super Rugby teams play with a pretty good attacking intent. I will be interested to see what the kick chase, the blockers does in front of the high ball. I'll be interested to see whether that opens up a few more attacking opportunities.
We've noticed a bit of that in pre-season. We've noticed a lot of box kicks, and obviously that is the coaches are saying we need to practice this because they're going to be pinging this.
Absolutely, and we saw it in the national level that has created new opportunities. So it's going to flow down to Super Rugby level. There's probably going to be more opportunities because defensive lines aren't nearly as good as they are in the national level. So that's probably going to be one area that we'll see a bit of difference. The interpretations around not being able to play through rucks and mauls at the 9 at the back could be interesting as well. That could sort of create a few opportunities for short side raids and things like that. And I actually think we'll see more, dare I say it, 8-9 combos off the back of scrums down short side this year as well, particularly with the opposition 9. They're basically just retreating to the back of the scrum now. So there's going to be more space, I think, for attack off the back of scrums.
We always want on this side of the microphone, don't we? We want to find as much as we can out in these preseason games. But of course, the way that they structured the breaks, the 20-minute breaks, the water breaks, so many subs coming on and off, it's difficult, isn't it? What do you read into it? Apart from please no injuries, what else we meant to take out of these games?
Yeah, so I went up to Bowral last weekend and watched New South Wales and the Brumbies have their hit out, and it was 6 tries apiece. So obviously, there was attacking was very much the on the menu for the day. But it was interesting to note watching it end on that both teams look actually pretty similar. They're looking to play with that. They look similar, and that wasn't surprising given that, Stephen Larkham and Dan McKellar have worked together and have fairly similar coaching philosophies. So, both looking to set the platform up the middle, and then they're looking to play wide, wherever they can. And I reckon you could say that about the other 9 Super Rugby teams as well. They're all going to be looking to do the same sort of thing this year. So, we'll get a look at the Western Force and the Brumbies in Canberra this afternoon, and I expect I'll see something similar from the Force. I think the way Super Rugby is set up, as well as these new little law variations and things, I think it's sort of enticing teams to actually play attacking rugby again rather than being too defensively mindset.
Let's leave it with Joe Schmidt then. Was that a surprise to you? He's extended his contract. His last game is going to be against the All Blacks in Perth, but I would have thought that all Wallaby fans would have hoped that he might stay on, and then you're back to square one again. I mean, and then all of a sudden, who do you choose, and was it worth it in the end getting him for such a short period of time?
Yeah. Oh, look, the work and the improvements that he's been able to do in 12 months essentially has been fantastic, and from where the Wallabies were when he took over to where they are even now is a vast improvement. So it's certainly been worth having him on board. It wasn't too much of a surprise for me, and I must admit, the longer it went on, he said straight after the spring tour that he knew that he had to make a decision by Christmas, and he knew that he had to get it done. And RA wanted to get it done by Christmas, and they wanted to get it done by the end of January. Then it was going to be the start of Super Rugby, and the more the goalposts keep getting pushed back, that to me sort of said he's probably not going to carry on. Right. And it's good that he's going to keep doing the Rugby Championship, and the reasoning for that is pretty sound. There's 2 weeks, maybe not even 2 weeks between the first Rugby Championship test and the last Lions test in the first week of August. So there's not a lot of turnover time there. It just gives them another 6 or 7 weeks to try and find his successor, and then there's the possibility that he stays on in some sort of advisory role. Now, I don't necessarily think that will happen if it's an external coach comes in, if it's someone that's not in the system now, be they Australian or otherwise. If it's promoting one of the Super Rugby guys, then maybe that makes sense. But yeah, it's completely respect and completely understand the decision that he's made, and putting family first. You can't begrudge on anyone, but oh, geez, it would have been good if he stayed.
Give us a tip then. Who do you reckon it might be? To place him?
I'm actually really open-minded about it now. I think there's a lot of talk and even assumption around Les Kiss from Queensland, but I'm actually not so sure whether he's ready or whether he wants to, even at this stage, go to international level, and that sort of then opens up the door for who's around and who's available. I saw Jamie Joseph's name, funny that you mentioned him, thrown up just in the last 24 hours, and I thought, well, geez, they could do a lot worse, couldn't they? So, Michael Checker's name will absolutely be thrown into this mix. There's no question about it. I wouldn't do that myself, but I can absolutely see and understand the business case being made behind him, because he's certainly the bloke that you could come in and say, get them to a World Cup semi-final, and then you're done. He seems to have a sort of a short time frame these days, but he could absolutely do that sort of job.
Eddie Jones, mate.
No, I think
come on, mate. You want it.
I think that ship's. Wouldn't it be ironic if Eddie Jones up and left Japan to go back to Australia a third time?
It would make it. It would complete the jigsaw perfectly, wouldn't it?
I don't know what to do with the jigsaw once he landed back.
That's our podcasting show for today. Again, if you're liking what you're listening and what you're seeing, then a small favour, if you will. Can you please hit like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend about it. We are a fledgling podcast and show, the DSPN, and we need you. And if you are participating, well, just click that subscribe button. That would help enormously. Thank you so much if you already have. Again, tell a friend if you like. We're doing this every single day, putting out a show every afternoon. The DSPN.
This is the DSPN.